Lord, we are gathered here tonight to serve the people of Winnebago County. Please guide us so that we act in the best interest of those that we serve. Watch over and protect our first responders, our medical professionals, and all others who work to protect the health and well-being of the people of Winnebago County. Tonight, we pray for the people who are suffering from COVID and for the souls of those who have been lost to this terrible disease. Lord, as we gather together with our families this week, we give thanks to you for all of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Watch over us and keep us safe during this time of celebration. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Agenda announcements, Mr. Thompson, are there any changes to the...
No announcements.
Thank you. Clerk Gummel, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will start with Mr. Salgado, Mr. Schultz, Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Arena,
Here.
Mr. Billich, Mr. Booker, Mr. Butita, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers, Mr. Gurl, Mrs. Gorel, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Neighbors, Mrs. Red.
Present.
She's not present until.
Right, correct.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, that is 17 board members present, 3 board members absent, and Mr. Kelly is walking in the door.
And Clerk, have you been notified by any members that they wish to participate by Zoom?
Yes, Ms. Red has requested to participate by Zoom.
Thank you. May I have a motion to allow Ms. Red to participate by Zoom? Motion by Ms. Gurl, second by Mr. Gurl. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Ms. Red is added to the meeting. 5 awards, presentations, public hearings, and public participation. First up is awards. Mr. Webster, would you please come forward?
Oops. Okay, under awards this evening, we would like to welcome the head coach, Brian Zimmerman, and players from the Hononegah High School football team. Would you like to come up? The Indians finished the regular season undefeated, winning the MIC-10 championship, and also capped off the year with 2 home games and played both of their playoff games at Kelsey Field. Adding to an already historic season, the team made it to the IHSA quarterfinals for the first time since 1996. While Hononegah's run in the playoffs came to an end after their 36-16 loss to St. Rita, the Indians ended their season with an 11-1 record, 1 win shy of the most wins in Hononegah history. With that being said, I want to honor the team tonight with the Chairman's Excellence Award. Being from Rockton, it's my honor too. So, to accept the award, please welcome several senior players here this evening. I hope I get this right, including quarterback Isaac Wisenand, Aiden Peters, Bryce Goodwine, Dylan Sales, Karsten Nordley, and Clay Walls, and Stuart Hale, as well as head coach Brian Zimmerman. Let's give him a hand. Okay, this Chairman's Excellence Award, Joe couldn't be here this evening, Joe Torelli that is. And so Joe says, I, Joe Torelli, Chairman of the Winnebago County Board, hereby recognize the 2021 Hononegah High School football team for their incredible representation of Winnebago County. This award acknowledges their undefeated regular season and historic run in the Class 7A playoffs, making it to the quarterfinals for the first time in 25 years. Congratulations to head coach Brian Zimmerman and his football program for this accomplishment and making the entire county of Winnebago proud. Thank you. You guys want to say something here?
Well, first off, we're greatly honored and we appreciate receiving the award. This is my 29th season at Hononegah, and I'm an alumni as well. So, you know, we always try to do our best. We started from having a little chem tool situation up there in the summer that kind of got us delayed for about a week and a half, something like that. But these young men, they show up week in and week out, and through the summer camps that we have, the conditioning, the weightlifting and all that, and then we start in the second week of August, I guess, and it's quite a big commitment that we ask these guys to make to get throughout the season and so forth. And after having been involved in the program this long, like I said, it's not that you get a group like we had this season come along that often. So I want to congratulate these guys one more time, and we want to thank you guys for the honor. And I think that's about all I got. Might be the shortest I've ever not spoken, right? All right. We, yeah, you know, the cheer and the palm and all the other people that support us are fantastic. Thank you.
Mr. Westcott.
As a Bear fan, I would love to see us improve in that area. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations, all of you. We have no other presentations tonight, no public hearings. We do have one public participant. Before we have you come up, let me just read these instructions. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, zoning committee, or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks or inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated. So this evening we have Reverend Earl Dotson Sr. signed up to speak. Please come forward, Mr. Dotson.
Thank you. The Bible. Seek the Lord and you shall live, lest he break out like fire and devour it, and there be none left to quench it. You turn justice into wormwood and cast down righteousness. Justice, judgment, and righteousness. The core message here by Amos, the prophet, contrasted with wormwood, which is a repugnant Palestinian plant. Yes, folk, there is a worldwide health pandemic, and there's a worldwide wealth pandemic negatively impacting Black folks, particularly here in the United States. Statistic after statistic disclose this disgraceful and immoral condition, fueled by racism. I cite again, from JP Morgan Chase. White household net worth, median, 188,000. Median Latino net worth, 36,000. At the bottom, net worth, Blacks, $24,000, poverty level. Yet, Here in Rockford, the religious, business, political, and other communities are tone deaf to this horrible condition without any plan to address it. It is most egregious to see Black citizens in this and other legislative bodies, in the main, seem to acquiesce to this economic enslavement. Trust me, Rockford, a new day is on the horizon. In the next few weeks, evidence of our organization exposing this neglect and barbarity will come center stage. An excerpt from one of Dr. King's speeches, I paraphrase to some extent. He put 100 years, I write 400 years later. The life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years, he says, I say 400 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 400 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners of American society and find himself in exile in his own land. I say again, in a few weeks, our organization will be presenting to the city, the state, the county, and other bodies, certainly the federal government, where we've talked to some people there. We'll be asking for at least $15 million to reopen church school for advanced manufacturing. The other $25 million will help other organizations. I have one of our participants here. He's in the back. She's going to have a department store. The only way you're going to create sustainable communities is money. And to hear people in this community and across this country, it's like it's anathema to talk about that when you discuss it with Black people. That is no longer tolerable, and it won't be tolerated.
Thank you, Reverend Dotson. Okay, next up, approval of October 28th minutes. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Webster, second by Mr. Lindmark. All those in favor? Opposed? And so unanimous. And then we have layover of the November 9th minutes. Next up, consent agenda, the raffle report. Can we take these together? Okay, raffle report and auditor's report. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Squirrel, second by Mr. Neighbors. All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Appointments, we have no new appointments at this time. Next up, the reports of the standing committees. Before we go through this part of the agenda, there was conversation before last meeting about Zoom and how we operate when there's a Zoom participant. Ms. Vaughn was kind enough to do some research on the legality of what's required and when a roll call vote is required. Ms. Vaughn, could you give a summary of what you found?
Thank you, Chairman. So I did review the Open Meetings Act in regards to roll call votes. So under subsection 7A of the Act, roll call votes are not required. It is only required under subsection E is when we have a disaster declaration. However, our local rules still apply under subsection 7A, and 7A is the attendance by other means, which is remote attendance. One of our rules that was passed last December, section 2-67 of our code, requires that a roll call vote of the members shall be taken on all ordinances and the appropriation or allocation of funds, whether by ordinance or resolution. However, after Paul and I kind of looked at it again, it kind of contradicts itself within the same paragraph, because it says this rule may not be suspended, but it further says the chairman may inquire whether any member opposes the question. If no more than 2 members indicate their opposition, the chairman may order the clerk to note for the record the names of the members in opposition and to enter the approval of all the other board members present on the record. So based on this section 2-67A, it's unclear whether a roll call vote is required for those specific items, or an exception can be made if no more than 2 are opposed. So ultimately, the objective I think for all of us is that everyone's vote is accurately identified and recorded for the record. And since we're doing this hybrid model at this point, sometimes is difficult because there may be technical issues, a county board member may be muted, and things of that nature. So I think the objective is that everyone's vote is recorded. So if that's by voice vote or roll call vote, I just want to make sure it's clear and everything is accurate. So I do believe we may have to look into amending some of our current codes because I think it contradicts what it intended to do.
So, and I know there's been some conversation among the Republican caucus, and I'm sure the Democrats as well, about how we operate under Zoom moving forward. This will be something else that we should probably look into and clean up. But for this evening, and correct me if I'm wrong, we can, on items that don't seem to be contested, we can see if there's no more than 2 in opposition, we can do a voice vote.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. But we just have to ask, I guess, Ms. Red to, we'll ask her in particular to state her vote for the record if we do a voice vote. So we make sure that she's on record as she wished to vote. Okay. With that, we'll move on to the reports of standing committees. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 2 items today. The first one's a resolution approving the election equipment purchase using American Recovery Plan funds, ARP, and I so move.
We have a motion to approve. Can I have a second, Mr. Burrow? Mr. Girl, I'm sorry. Second by Mr. Butita.
All right. Pretty much just real quickly discussion on this.
Yeah, discussion.
It's pretty standard. It's a purchase of laptops, election equipment, and Ms. Gamau, if she wants to speak on it, you're more certainly give the floor to you.
Are there questions from any board members? Yeah. Squirrel?
I don't have a question. I just want to congratulate her because that equipment has been outdated for some time. It's about time we got it updated so we don't have future problems. It looked good in today's newspaper too. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Crosby?
Constituent asked me today how old the equipment is that we currently have, and I couldn't remember, but it's substantial.
2004.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from any board members? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Red?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is resolution authorizing settlement litigation, Larry Horde versus Winnebago County et al. And I so move.
Here we have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. Butita, Mr. Hoffman. Discussion?
Just for the record, that's $35,000.
Are there any questions from any board members on this item? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Ms. Red, I believe I heard you say aye.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the finance.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado.
Thank you.
Zoning Committee, Mr. Webster.
Thank you. Zoning Committee has 5 items, or 4 items this evening. These are in for first reading. Z0721. Number 2 is SU0321. That's a special use. Number 3 is Z0821. And number 4 is Z0921. These are all in for first reading.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have.
Economic Development Committee. Oh, Just in time. The record show Mr. Village has joined the meeting. Come on up.
First of all, I'd like to apologize that I'm late. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling it. So today for Economic Development Committee, we do have a resolution to grant $5,000 from host fees to the Rockford Area Convention and Visitors Bureau, RACVB, to support the Stroll on State event. And I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second? Second by Mr. Fellows, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. Westcott.
If I may just give like a brief description on this.
Please go ahead.
One thing that actually this program does come with, if you do look at your agenda packet, they did actually include some other bonuses as to all the sponsors. Now, we have been a sponsor before for this event. Obviously, this brings a lot of businesses to the area. We did modify this with the help of Martisha, where she's actually including a lot of businesses that are outside of the Rockford region. So it's actually more inclusive of the entire county. That was one of our main things that we requested over the last 2 years. So she's done a little bit more effort in that kind of case to try to get more of the businesses that are from the outside of the Rockford area that are still within Winnebago County to have them involved in this exhibit as well. Not only that, we actually do have people from the entire region of Winnebago County that are involved with the parade portion of this as well. So that is one of the biggest things that we made a push for. So I just wanted to give an update on that is happening now with this. So
Questions or discussion from other members? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? One. I'm sorry, 1 no, 2 noes. We have more than 2? All right, so the noes are Mr. Schultz and Mr. Webster. Ms. Red, your vote on this?
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. That does conclude our report.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Operations and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Operations has got one resolution this evening. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of a renewal agreement with Arthur J. Gallagher for the property and casualty coverage, and I so move.
We have a motion. Can I have a second? Second by Mr. Hoffman. Mr. Butita. Discussion. Any board members with questions, comments? Nope. Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Red?
Aye.
None. Thank you.
Concludes our report. Thank you, sir.
Public Works Committee, Mr. Tassoni. Thank you. I will do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works Committee brings forth 6 resolutions this evening. First item will be Resolution 21-035. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of Amendment Number 2 to extend the licensing agreement with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for the extension of Perryville Road Path through Rock Cut State Park. So I would move.
We have a motion. Second, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Webster. Discussion. Can you just give a brief?
This is just an extension. This has been ongoing since the initial agreement was back in 2001, I believe. This is just an extension of the agreement. Going to be a piece of bike path that goes through the northwest corner out by Hart Road to 173, I believe. Small parking lot, paved. Just, like I say, amendment to the original agreement. No cost, just basically boilerplate paperwork for the state.
Okay. Thank you. No further discussion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I heard Ms. Red say aye. So it's unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Next item is Resolution 21-036. It's a resolution authorizing of a professional engineering services agreement with Willett Hoffman and Associates to provide plans and specifications for the rehabilitation of well number 1, the Winnebago Water District well house. So move.
We have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. Girl. Mr. Kelly, seconds. Discussion. Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
I heard Ms. Read, so it's unanimous. Next item.
The next 2 items I'm going to move together. They are attached to each other. Basically, the cost for the project and the engineering services, they go hand in hand. First is 21-037. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of a local public agency agreement for federal participation for Yale Bridge Road culvert replacement at Sugar Creek and for appropriating the local share of funds, and as well as 21-038, which is a resolution authorizing the execution of a local public agency engineering services agreement with Chastain and Associates LLC to provide construction engineering services for the replacement of the Yale Bridge Road culvert over Sugar Creek. And I would move both those items.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. Webster, Mr. Kelly. Discussion. Quiet group tonight. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
aye,
Okay, it's unanimous. Next up.
Thank you, Chairman. Our next item, Resolution 21-039. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Rockton, Illinois, and Winnebago County, Illinois, regarding construction and maintenance of a recreational path along Old River Road, and I would so move and speak to it as well.
All right, we have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Buceta. Go ahead, Mr.
This basically no cost to the county. This basically is just to allow for the county to allow the Village of Rockton the right-of-way access to put in a bike path, and all costs associated are on the Village of Rockton, and as well as the maintenance of it.
Is there any further discussion from any board members? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
aye,
Okay, unanimous.
Our final resolution, 21-040. I'm sorry, it's not a resolution, it's an ordinance, so this will be read in. It's an ordinance extending the established speed zone on Rockton Road from Illinois 251 east side ramp to Love Road, and that's in for first reading.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Next up, Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, Mr. Gurl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Safety and Judiciary has 4 resolutions for you tonight. And the first resolution is a resolution renewing service agreement with Tommy Meeks using public safety sales tax alternative funding. And I so move.
I have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Westcott, Ms. Fellers, Mr. Neighbors. Discussion.
Real quick, this is a 1-year contract, $1,000 per month for Mr. Meeks, a total of $12,000 for the contract.
Any further questions or discussion from any board members? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next resolution is a resolution renewing service agreement with Rosecrans for services at Winnebago County Jail using public safety sales tax alternative funding, and I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second? Mr. Buceta. Discussion. Mr. Buceta.
Well, I would just point out that basically it's just a 90-day agreement, because at the first of the year, these funds, or the expenses to this, we picked up from the mental health tax. So I believe the county's going to use a 30-day option to opt out, correct? Yeah, so.
Okay. Ms. Coral.
Thank you. First of all, this 1% tax was voted in by the people of Winnebago County. $3 million was put aside for alternative programs. And all we are down to now, out of all the programs, is remedies and Rosecrans. That comes out of the 1% sales tax period. It does not come out and ask for out of other sales tax for mental health, because this is not a mental health institution. And this is what the people of Winnebago County has voted for, and I will fight it to the death. That money stays in this 1% sales tax where it was voted on, and that's where it stays. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coral. Any other comment, discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Red?
Aye.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear your vote. Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next is a resolution renewing service agreement with Remedies for services at the Resource Intervention Center, or RIC Center, using public safety sales tax alternative funding, and I so move.
I have a motion, can I have a second? Mr. Booker? Discussion.
Again, real quick, if I could, Mr. Chairman, this is a one-year agreement also, and it comes in about just under $140,000 for the total contract for 1 year.
Any further discussion or questions? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next is a resolution regarding Second Amendment sanctuary, and I so move.
I have a motion, can I have a second? Mr. McDonald, Mr. Westcott. Discussion. Ms. Fellers.
Which is SB 107, has been assigned to no committee. I'm sorry. The legislation to which this is in reference to, SB 107 in Springfield, has been assigned to no committee. It hasn't been brought up in any meaningful way in this session. In fact, the last time there was any kind of movement on it at all was in March of 2019, when it was put into session sine, meaning that it's been indefinitely tabled. I don't understand why we're voting to be against legislation that doesn't even exist.
Can somebody speak to Ms. Fellers' question?
I would like to refer to Mr. Webster just to explain the amendment, if he could, please.
It is not just about that piece of legislation. It's about all legislation that comes forward that has some negative effect on lawful ownership of guns, which is a constitutional right you have.
Follow up, Ms. Fellers?
I understand that, but specifically, this deals with SB 107, and even in the synopsis as introduced from 2019, it says that it is unlawful for a person to knowingly possess an assault weapon 300 days after the effective date, except possession of weapons that have been registered lawfully. So it's not even banning lawfully registered guns. I don't understand, again, why we're voting on something that doesn't exist.
If I could, real quick, Mr. Chairman.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm reading through the resolution right now, and it does not mention at all any House bill at all in this resolution. I think that was the map that coincided with that to show you that, so it was just a comparison. It doesn't state any, definite negatory response to any bill that is out there, just any bill that would come around that would infringe the Second Amendment rights.
For the record, I don't have it in front of me, but is it mentioned in the resolution?
Chairman, no, it's not.
Okay, thank you. Does that satisfy your concern?
Yeah, I was referring to the map that was handed out in committee that specifically referred to SB 107.
Okay, yeah. So I believe as Mr. Girl said, it was just for reference purposes. Mr. Neighbors.
Mr. Webster to explain his intent with this resolution?
Certainly. Mr. Webster, would you care to respond?
Sure. First of all, in response to what Ms. Fellers said, and thank you for straightening that out, Bert, because there is no mention of that Senate bill in the resolution. The map that I that you have, or that I showed most of you, or all of you, if you wanted to see it. If you look at the map, and I said this specifically when I was showing you the map, this map's a couple years old. It has not been updated. And at the very bottom of the map, if you look at it, it says copyright 2019. So that's the reason why there's no mention of SB in that resolution. And so, once again, the reason for the resolution is just affirming a right that you have, a constitutional right. And if you want me to, I'll go through this again. When we all took our oath of office, we all took the same oath of office, all of us did, from the President of the United States on down, that we would support and protect the Constitution of the United States. Well, these amendments are part and parcel of that. And when I took the oath, I didn't realize that there was any reason why you would separate which ones that you're supportive of or not. It was not, that oath of office we took was not a la carte. It was all or nothing. And so I'm just asking my fellow board members here to, once again, go through with this resolution, because it's asking our legislature not, the bottom line is, we're asking them not to come forward with any more laws that are restrict lawful gun owners. I say lawful to you. I'm not asking for protection for the criminals. I'm not asking for protections for underage people. I'm not asking for you to go out and buy a gun. I'm not even suggesting that you go out and buy a gun. I'm just suggesting that you uphold and support an oath that you took when you took office. And the same message I'm asking for our state legislators by sending this resolution down state to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Follow up, Mr. Neighbors, or?
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In committee, it was explained to me that you didn't want to ask the Winnebago, you want Winnebago County to participate in the Second Amendment sanctuary program as a way to stop prosecution of lawful gun owners with lawfully registered guns. This just keep the laws for the criminals and not the lawfully registered gun owners. And my rebuttal to that is, I like guns. I'm a concealed carry holder. I have a Ford car. I own a few guns. I live in Illinois, and I think this resolution would be totally irresponsible, given the time we're in right now, given the large municipality that we have in Winnebago County, to put this forward just because guns are dangerous. And I know you said you don't want to condemn the lawfully registered gun owners and the firearm owners, and you just want to make sure the criminals are prosecuted and upheld. But you could be a lawfully registered gun owner, and as soon as you commit a crime, now you're a criminal. So to put this up right now would be irresponsible for Winnebago County, especially with the large municipality that we have in Rockford. And we have a lot of urban issues with gun violence in the city of Rockford. And the 72 counties that you mentioned that participate in this sanctuary don't have a municipality in it as large as Rockford and fighting gun laws with that Rockford's fights also. And so anyone that passed this wants to put irresponsible message to Winnebago County and its citizens. And that rest.
Thank you, Mr. Neighbors. I believe I have Mr. Hoffman and Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman.
agree with what Mr. Neighbor is saying, but I also trying to figure out why are we voting on something that hasn't happened yet? What is the purpose? If are we just trying to say, let's not even try to look at gun laws? Let's just let everything go? What is the purpose of this?
May Mr. Webster just respond to the question, and then Mr. Webster, go ahead, please.
Okay, first of all, what Tim just said is that a lawful gun owner commits a crime, and that makes him a criminal. Well, you know what? If you get prosecuted and you're found guilty, yes, that makes you a criminal. You've crossed the line. That's what happens. Now, as far as doing this now, once again, it's something that is just reaffirming the rights of a lawful gun owner. It's not creating more laws that affect the rights of a lawful gun owner. And I'm not saying any part of this, to create new laws that affect anything else. I'm saying, please don't make any more new laws that affect the lawful gun owner. That's all this is. Pretty plain and simple.
Okay, follow up.
Yeah, I just have follow up. Jim, I think I kind of know where you're coming from, but I'm kind of suspicious of that this is coming up after we have a decisive court case happening in Wisconsin. And I just want to know, is that what's causing you fear that something may arise out of Congress? That's my concern. Why are we doing this if nothing has happened? Or are you just trying to stop something from happening?
Okay, so response, and then we're going to Mr.
All right. First of all, this is not a knee-jerk reaction to what happened in Wisconsin. Secondly, Wisconsin has different laws than we have in the state of Illinois. Thirdly, this is something that I've been working on for well over a year. None of this had anything to do with what happened in Wisconsin or Idaho or California or anywhere else. This has to do with what's going on in the state of Illinois, the state that I live in. That's what it has to do with. And so to get thinking that this is some sort of a thing just because what happened in Wisconsin, you're absolutely 100% wrong. And furthermore, this would have gone or should have gone through in September. It got pushed back, okay? And then in October, there wasn't enough people for a quorum. And so all of these, the timeline would have been ahead of what's happening in the courts in Wisconsin or anywhere else. I'm not reacting what's going on somewhere else. I'm talking about our state that we live in. And to quote my old friend L.C. Wilson, he says, this is just one big old county. We all got to learn to live in it. And I would say the same thing goes for the state.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman. The way I take this is that, and I mentioned it in discussion in committee, is that I take this as our resolution, our county board's resolution on this is merely symbolic. And as was mentioned before, more than half of the counties in Illinois have already gone to, have voted for a resolution to go with Second Amendment sanctuary. The reason that I find compelling to do this is because of the continued attacks on our Second Amendment, the attacks by the media, the attacks by those in Congress, and attacks by some of our state lawmakers. If those attacks were on the Fourth Amendment, on our right to privacy, I think we'd be, if we felt the government was attacking our Fourth Amendment right, I think we'd be standing up to reaffirm our oath to the Constitution, to the amendments in the Constitution that that we've been sworn to uphold. So it's just merely our firm stance to let the government know that we are standing firm with the Second Amendment, that the government shall not infringe on our rights to bear arms and ammunition. That's all this is. It's just symbolic, just saying that we stand firm with the Constitution. And again, it's due to the attacks by those in Congress, the media, and our lawmakers, the continued attacks on our Second Amendment. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Ms. Goro.
Thank you, Chairman, for the night. I have a real hard time with the word arms. If that word was different, you know, when the Constitution was written, we had muskets, we had these little teeny cannons, we had bow and arrows, maybe a knife here and there. We didn't have the type of arms we have today. And I have a problem with that because there's no definition of what type of arms we can bear. You give me that right, does that mean that I can get myself I'm having problems with my neighbor across the street. His dog keeps coming in my yard and doing his duties, and the gentleman keeps coming and grabbing his dog, but doesn't pick up what the dog has left in my yard. Does that mean I can go buy a small cannon and blow his house right off the map? What does it say? It says nothing of what I can go buy and what I can do. The type of arms we have today are detrimental. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, I heard a big boom. I thought we just had an accident around the corner from me. Well, the next thing then I heard a boom. Well, when I left my house, I couldn't get out of my driveway for all the cops all over the place because we had another homicide right on the corner from me, not even a half a block. I've had these in my neighborhood for a long time. This isn't new to me. But that boom sure was. It wasn't pop, pop, pop. It was a boom. What type of an arm did that person have? Where did he get that? Did he steal it from a person who is licensed? You know, I'm not going to vote on this because I want the definition of arms, of today's definition of what we can do for legal arms. I don't want people walking around with these repeat rifles and going into a crowd of people and just shooting them up. I can't handle that anymore. I'm too old for that. And I don't want my grandkids and my great-grandkids coming up to have to look at that. The word arms needs to be more defined. And I do hope we give some thought to that before we go forward with this. I will not vote on this at this time because I'm looking at that word arms. I want it defined more openly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goro. Ms. Crosby, and then Mr. Kelly.
I would like to call the question, please.
We have to vote.
I don't believe that motion allows discussion, so clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Schultz, Mr. Tassoni, Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Rena,
Yes.
Mr. Billich, Mr. Booker, Mr. Butita, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers, Mr. Gurl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Neighbors, Mrs. Red,
No.
Mr. Salgado. I'm sorry, did I call Mr. Kelly? Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Chairman, that's 15 yes and 5 no.
And the motion prevails. So we'll move on to the vote. Clerk Gumbel, please call the roll.
Start with Mr. Tassoni.
Wait, point of order.
Go ahead.
Did we vote to call the question? Is that what the vote was?
That's what the vote
Okay.
was, to call the question.
That was a roll call vote?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry.
because I could tell that wasn't going to go to the nose. Yeah, so please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Webster, Mr. Westcott, Mr. Arena,
Yes.
Mr. Billich, Mr. Booker, Mr. Butita, Mrs. Crosby, Ms. Fellers, Mr. Gurl,
Yes.
Mrs. Gorel, Mr. Hoffman, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Lindmark, Mr. McCarthy, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Neighbors, Mrs. Red,
No.
Mr. Salgado, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Chairman, that's 15 board members yes, 5 board members no.
Resolution is approved. Mr. Gurl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Gurl. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, we have appointments. The Howard Union Cemetery Association, Sherry Fagerstrom, reappointment. Joe Alberstedt, reappointment. Ken Moore, reappointment. We need a motion. Yeah. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Hoffman, second by Ms. Fellers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Second appointment, the 12 Mile Grove Cemetery Association, Carrie Daly. It's a new appointment. Can I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Booker, second by Mr. Lindmark and Ms. Gorel. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, moving on to new business. Does anyone have any new business to bring forward tonight? Okay, announcements and communications. Clerk Gummow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The items listed below were received as correspondence.
Thank you. I have announcements that was shared with us by Ms. Grindle. I'm sure by now we've all heard the devastating news of what happened in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where 5 people were killed and at least 48 more were injured when an SUV plowed into a Christmas parade this past Sunday. As Stroll on State is now only 4 days away, I know people might have questions about how the RACVB is responding and planning for safety. Safety and security planning for the event is led by the Rockford Police and Fire Departments and already includes protocols and actions that are put in place to minimize the risk of something like this happening and to respond if something tragic were to occur. Please note that in addition to road closures up and down State Street, Chestnut and Walnut Streets between Church Street and 3rd Street will be closed from 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturday. An emergency lane created by security barricades will be in place on State Street from Church Street to 2nd Street. The parade will move through the barricades, and later during the event, pedestrians will be able to walk in this lane and cross freely across State Street, and the lane will be available to emergency vehicles should the need arise. Of course, there is also COVID mitigations to take into account this year. The Stroll on State team has worked closely with the Winnebago County Health Department to ensure the event is following every recommendation and mandate, but they've also put some additional safety measures in place. This year, there's a larger footprint, 3 separate tree lighting ceremonies, a new time and location for fireworks, multiple Santa pop-up visits, indoor and outdoor letters to Santa, additional spacing for vendors, and again, face masks are required whenever indoors. Other events this weekend include Dasher Dash 5K at noon, Stroll on State kicks off at 2 p.m. with the Merry and Bright Parade, tree lightings at 4:45 p.m. at 1st Street and State, 5:45 p.m. at Davis Park, and 6:45 p.m. at Main and Mulberry. At 8 p.m., fireworks will be launched from the Jefferson Street Bridge. Shuttles will run from 1:45 to 9:30 p.m. from Illinois Bank and Trust at East State Street, Heartland Community Church at Alpine Road, or YMCA at Madison Avenue. More details can be found at strollonstate.com. That is all the announcements that I have. Are there any announcements by any board members? Ms. Goro.
I'm real excited because River Bluff Nursing Home has just gotten a 4-star award. And I want you to know our best and most expensive nursing home in town hasn't had that for some time because of the fact they don't follow rules about COVID. So I'm so proud of all the people out at River Bluff Nursing Home because it takes a whole team of people to come up with a 4-star award. And we should be very proud of it. Don't know how long it'll last, but it's here today for the next 4 months. So I want to make sure all of you knew that. I had hoped that it had been sent out to all of our members, but it wasn't. But they're doing great, and they're going to continue to do great once we get their financing taken care of. And through all that, they come out with 4 stars, even though they have, where you have financial problems out there. That's something to be very, very proud of. The people who work out there, the administrator, just the whole staff, it just takes a whole team, and I'll say that over and over again. So congratulations to them. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful news. Anybody else with any announcements or comments? Okay, seeing hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? By everybody. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, second.
Mr. Neighbors and Mrs. Fellers, thank you.
Just pick them. I saw everybody's hand up.